Now, I guess on a good news level, we're celebrating an anniversary in effect.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
To the stateful firewall, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, actually, Intel put out a kind of history chart. It's kind of a nice little histogram of the evolution of the firewall. And it's an interesting little chart to look at to kind of see how we got to where we are today from the very beginning of things. I highlighted a couple of the interesting items here. So the first stateful firewall was in around 1989. I actually remember those days, dating myself. And it's kind of engineered out of AT&T Bell Labs, where we come from. Bill Cheswick and Steve Bellevin kind of came up with the first stateful firewall. From there, and in terms of prior to that, there was a lot of things going on of just kind of port filtering or IP filtering, where they didn't really kind of keep track of the state of the connection, was a SYN sent and a SYNAC received, and those kinds of things. And this was kind of the first evolution of that. Let's try to figure out if the connection's for real or not, and we've got some state here. And keep track of that so that we know we can continue this connection when the next packet comes through or whatever.
Yeah, now help me understand, I think one of the things that you tend to try to do with a stateful firewall, because you're generally in an enterprise where a firewall is trying to protect things, or maybe it's protecting access to a server or something along those lines, a connection comes in and you decide whether you want to let the packet through, but the trick is, what do you accept back, right? I mean, that really what we're trying to achieve here with this statefulness?
Well, yeah, I mean, in a sense, it's controlling the flow of the session, so to speak.
Right, so keeping track, and I mean, this is my understanding of the statefulness, is a connection goes outbound, and what you're really trying to do is keep track that, yes, I did want to communicate.
Right, a SYN was actually sent, so I'm waiting for a SYNAC to come back to me. And, I have kind of a state table that in my firewall that says, okay, I know I sent a SYN out to this IP address. I should be expecting a SYNAC, so when it comes back, I'm going to allow it to come back through again. But if I get a SYNAC just from people at random, I'm going to pitch it on the floor. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of the notion there.
But one of the hazards of that is that you have to have the state space to be able to track those. And so if somebody wants to try to do something like a denial of service attack, one of the mechanisms is to try to exhaust that state space and send the thing into kind of a crazy state of disarray or perhaps even crash, and then you have to bring everything back up.
Right.
So you want to try to have mechanisms around this. So sorry, I'm digressing from your story here.
We're starting at the very beginning, the genesis of the firewall, really, for the most part.
Yeah.
And it really is kind of the grounding principle from where all firewalls kind of evolved to today. They all still have that basic functionality. Things, evolve beyond that to things like application level firewalls in the 1994 timeframe. Those are the things like proxies, reverse proxies, things that are looking at the application layer, not just the TCP or the IP layer down there. It's really looking at the application layer, what's happening, what the requests are, should I allow this through or not. And then in 1998, one of the big revolutions, I think, was Snort, open source project came out with their IDS, some IPS functionalities that could be done with that, and other products that evolved out of that space, which are real signature-based things. So they're really in that DPI kind of thing where they're looking in the packets, trying to figure out, is this a known vulnerability that someone's trying to leverage against me here? If so, I want to drop this packet, or I want to do something based on seeing that. 2003, next generation firewalls, next generation. That term gets used a lot, but those kind of evolved, and those kind of integrated a lot of these functions of the application level firewall with the signature kind of DPI stuff that Snort and some of these other products did. So they kind of married those notions together. And then 2006, we saw things like web application firewalls, WAFs, we like to call them, emerge, which are kind of like your reverse proxies and all of these other products together. In addition to looking for things like SQL injection, cross-site scripting, so they have some kind of intelligence where they're not looking for static signatures, but they're looking more behaviorally as, does this look like something fishy going on here in the way they're trying to interact with me? So really escalating into that application layer higher and higher to to defend whatever's behind it that they're trying to protect.
Yeah, one of the things that I've kind of felt there's been a bias in the past that, the firewall kind of sits on the edge of the enterprise and is mostly allowing the trusted internal users to go out to certain places and get stuff back. But I think it was that sort of the WAF, the web application firewall, that really kind of is specialized toward a server and allowing only, or more so perhaps filtering out the bad stuff that you don't want to get in, the injection attacks and that.
Right, protecting some kind of server or device that's servicing things, as opposed to protecting an enterprise where you have a bunch of users egressing out of your network or something.
And firewalls had always been used for that application previously, perhaps not a stateful one, but certainly to control which ports the applications were exposed to or the servers were exposed to. But the notion of actually filtering what goes into the application itself, the URLs, and the content associated with those, I think was a shift. So.
Right. And then I guess the last comment I would make is, since the firewall did kind of somewhat emerge out of AT&T labs originally, just recommend people check out. There's still a lot of relevance to the Firewall's Internet Security book, Repelling the Wily Hacker from Cheswick Bellavin and Rubin, and they have a lot of interesting little stories in there too. It's not like a super technical plan-by-plan kind of thing, but it's an interesting read because they kind of give it in a story.
It's more of a story.
Yeah, it's more of a story.
It actually is a good story, and I think still relevant today to understand how attacks manifest themselves and how they were in the process of protecting against that. And I think you have pictured here is actually the cover for the second edition.
Right.
That was the edition of Avi Rubin as a participant in that.
Right.
And definitely a very good read. So let's, I guess, shift back to you here, Matt. And